The day has finally come. Today we're going to build the NordicTrack S22i. It says to cut the bottom open, flip it over, and pull the box off the top. In the next few minutes we're going to go through and build the NordicTrack. This is going to be a very concise and easy to follow how to build manual. So be sure to utilize that pause button if you need to slow down this video to follow along as we build it. Also, if you would like to see any other bikes like the Peloton Bike Plus and how this bike compares and stacks up to other similar bikes, be sure to browse my channel because I have a lot of other videos. A first look at the hardware pack here. Everything is labeled. It looks like it's going to be a pretty simple build. First things first, here's what all the parts look like. Everything is laid out. We took everything out of the box and out of the styrofoam. Tablet's still in the box, but here's everything. The first thing we do is drop in one of these 20mm bolts into each of these 4 holes, and don't tighten them all the way yet. It was a little bit tricky getting them to line up perfectly straight, so just make sure you have your bolts lined up and you don't cross thread them. The next step is to come around to the back side here and put in the 20mm bolts over here. There's one over here on this side as well. So I got them all started, and this back one back here, actually I'm having a little bit of difficulty getting aligned. So what I did is I tightened down these two and also this one around back here. And now I'm gonna come around here and see if I can get that aligned. Careful not to scratch your flywheel or the fork here with your small working space. It is actually kind of hard to work in this area with these tools. So I finally got the threading aligned, and it actually doesn't look like it's straight, but this is the first time it's actually feeling like it's actually going in right. Alright, got it fully snugged up. And before moving on to the back side, just make sure you come back through for one last pass on these 6 and just make sure they're all snugged up. Next, you slide this down here and get out these 2 screws. And pro tip for you, try and keep this stuff organized because it'll really help you find what you need. You put these 2 screws in with a Phillips screwdriver, which actually does not come in the toolkit, so you need your own. Then do the same thing on the other side. All right, finally got that front end on. Honestly, this is like one of the most difficult front ends I've ever had to deal with putting on a front of any bike. Usually it's just 2 little bolts and it's very, very simple. NordicTrack S22i, so far, this build process is brutal compared to other bikes. All right, next step, we come around back here, bring the back stabilizer bar and get out the remainder of the M10 bolts. So you drop in your 4 bolts here, but don't tighten them all the way yet. Get these back ones started, just like that. And once again, back here on the back left, as opposed to the front right, the back left back here, this one is just like wanting to cross thread. So it literally like looks like the bolt is like sideways right now, and it's lining up when it looks like a sideways. It might be kind of hard to see, but if you're having difficulty, like it's really tight when you're trying to tighten it up, it's probably because the threading isn't aligned. So don't cross thread it and strip the threading out. Just so you can see how easy it is for me to turn this right now, it's just turning like this easy. So I mean, if you're pushing with like all your might, the threading is not aligned. So now tighten down the 4 on the back, and then after these 4 are tightened, you can tighten down these ones, just like this. All right, now we got the stabilizer bars on. The next step is to put the stem on. Make sure you drop the stem low enough down here so you can take this wire and insert it. Insert the wire here. Just kind of feed it up and make sure you get them all the way in there. So it should come out pretty far. Then make sure the wire is coming out the front of the stem here. And now we can put the handlebars on. Now get out your 4 M8 patch screws and put them in the handlebars. So 2 of the bolts go right here on the front and 1 on the side here and then 1 around the other side here, and just tighten them all up. Next, you grab this big bolt and the jam nut and slide the console on here. Careful not to pinch any wires. Then slide this bolt right on through here. Then on the other side, you just put the jam nut on there. And just make sure when you tighten it up that you make sure you follow these instructions here on the side. The next step is to connect up the wires. and then slide them down into the frame. And this is about as good as I can get them into the frame, so we'll live with it. Here's the console. Looks like it has a fan built into the front here, so that's kind of nice. A little up and down button for the fan. Looks like there's a little camera up there on front, and a yellow and red connection wire back here. Also looks like there's an HDMI port and a USB port, as well as an audio in and audio out, and possibly volume controls. Get your 4 screws. This is gonna be hard. So it can be done with one person, but you have to plug in this first. So maybe you don't need to plug them in first, but it looked like you needed to. This can be done with one person if you can. It's a little bit difficult, but just put in a screw in the top one and the top one over here. If you just have your screws close to you, you might be able to do it on your own. The monitor, the tablet is pretty heavy though, and that was pretty difficult to do. Don't forget to put in the bottom screws as well. The next step says to make sure you align this thing so it's straight and horizontal, and then you tighten up this bolt down here once you got it straight. Now you take the weight holder and set it down here. And then use your last 4 screws to put in the bottom. And you just put those 4 screws in down here on the bottom side. Next, you set your saddle on there and tighten it up from the bottom with your Allen key. And after you got it where you want it, just kind of give it a little snug up here with the Allen wrench. And my goodness, does that seat go to an epic high proportion. The very final step before we plug it in is to put the pedals on, and I can't even believe I'm going to put these on, but this is what came with the bike, so I'm going to do it. Just remember, the left pedal is counter threaded, so you turn it left to tighten it. And always make sure that you have the threads aligned on the pedal before you start using any tools. You should be able to just tighten it up just like this with your hand, and then only at the very end do you use the wrench. So it helps if you put your hand on the stop, hold down on the stop, and just give it a little bit of a turn. You don't gotta go crazy, just kind of snug it up. Same exact process over here on the right side. Just make sure the threading is lined up and turn it on. And to snug up the pedal, you can just take one hand and put it here on the stop, and then simultaneously get your wrench into a place where you have leverage and just kind of push down a little bit. You don't got to go crazy, they'll just snug right up. Get your wrench in a place where you have leverage, push down on the stop, and just kind of give it a little snug, that's all. So that's all there is to building the NordicTrack S22i. It is a little bit of a pain, but from here, I'll just plug it in and do my very first test rides. If you want to know more about this bike, browse my channel, check my other videos in the description box. Maybe a card up here somewhere, because I have a lot more coming on this bike. I'm going to compare it head to head against the Peloton Bike Plus. You know, the king over there. Which bike is better? That is the question. We will find out soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in my next video.